Their formation's almost more like it's sort of like an upside down Christmas tree. You've got your goalkeeper, 2 centre-backs, 3 midfielders with 1 sort of dropped in the hole. And then you've almost got a 4 at times with the 2 full-backs almost right up next to Mane and Salah on the wings. And I think that's what's making Liverpool so good in attack this season. I think there's no real coincidence that Liverpool's top goal creator this season, if you like, the man with the top assists, is their left-back, Andrew Robertson. It's making them so kind of dangerous in attack because other teams can't afford to attack them. And fatigue after a while will just create these spaces. So I think if anything, it's the fullbacks this season who have been the most important for Liverpool, and having a sturdy sort of back two will be the most important thing that allows them to get forward and not always worry about getting back. There's an element of it just being a psychological aspect with Man City against Liverpool, certainly in the Champions League games where they came to Anfield and there was kind of the big reception. There was one player who played for Liverpool in both of those games who won't be playing tomorrow and who people have forgotten about a bit, and that's Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. And he had probably his best 2 games in a Liverpool shirt. What will be interesting to see will be if Naby Keita can come in and kind of replace his role, because Man City struggled to deal with him. And if suddenly you've got your holding midfielder not only dealing with the striker, but this player pushing forward, then he's suddenly got something else to think about. And I think there's also one other player for Man City last season who wasn't playing there and who probably won't play this weekend. He's kind of looking touch and go at the moment, who's Ben Mendy. Now, if someone like Mendy is playing for Man City, that's going to totally change the game, because suddenly Alexander-Arnold is going to have to think about whether or not he can afford to push right up, or whether he's going to have to sit back if Mendy's going to come right at him. Oxlade-Chamberlain for Liverpool and the lack of Mendy for Man City last year, in a way, kind of changed the game. And I think if that's flipped round this time, it's going to be interesting to see how that changes. There's one player this season who is now, I think, clearly Liverpool's most important player, and that's Virgil van Dijk. You look at the front 3 of Mane, Firmino, Salah, they're all very important players, but you take one of them out of the system and you don't feel as though the team's going to collapse in any way, and you sort of feel that the other 2 can do the legwork with whoever else comes in. With Van Dijk, it changes totally. He completely facilitates the fullbacks being able to push forward. His recovery pace is so good that you don't have to worry about getting caught on the break with him so much. Because so many times in the past, a team would break and score a goal against Liverpool, and critics and fans, perhaps rightly, would look at Moreno and say, oh, he's all the way up the other end of the pitch, he's just taken the ball up to left wing, why is he not in position? I think you could probably look back and find over sort of a dozen times this season already where that's been the case with Robertson, but nothing's come of it because Van Dijk's there and he can get back and track in. I think he is just so important to this system. I don't think any team has worked Mo Salah out, really. I think teams have looked to sort of put a few more men on him, but I think it's more just a kind of weight of expectation. You look, so we're 7 games into the Premier League season, Mo Salah's got 3 goals. 7 games into the last Premier League season, he had 4 goals. The amount of goals he scored last season was so astronomical that even if he gets half of those goals this season, I don't think that's too bad. There's no question that maybe he's dropped off a little bit, but you look against Chelsea, for example, Liverpool's last league game on the weekend. In the first 20 minutes, Mo Salah gets 2 really good shooting opportunities. But if he puts both of those goals in the back of the net, which you can imagine if you give him those shots a few more times, he's probably going to do, I think we're not even having a conversation about whether teams have worked Mo Salah out. The team for me that actually this season were maybe the most effective against at sort of neutralising Liverpool, and that includes Chelsea, who in the league drew with Liverpool and beat them in the League Cup, but I'd say it was Leicester, who played 2 kind of solid defensive midfielders. One, they played Mendy and Dijk, who I both thought had a good game. One to kind of deal with Firmino, and then one to deal with whoever kind of the attacking runner would be. But you can't see Man City lining up with 2 defensive midfielders. It's not how they play. They don't really have a second defensive midfielder after Fernandinho. If I was them, I'd play how they play, but I think the kind of key for them is to make sure they've got fullbacks who are willing to get forward, to make sure Liverpool's fullbacks are pinned back. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves kind of camped in their own territory. We're really seeming not to have many weaknesses. Past few seasons, it'd be really easy to point at the defence and the goalkeeper, but that's not the case this season. In fact, the only goal really in the league this season that's come against Liverpool that actually exploited areas where we might have gaps was Eden Hazard for Chelsea. So he brought Alexander-Arnold up to the halfway line and played a quick 1-2 and got in behind, and that's where the gaps can be left out. When Liverpool's fullbacks push forward, often Milner or Wijnaldum will drop into the sort of fullback spaces. But if there's a bit of a midfield battle going on and Man City can win the ball back quickly in midfield while Liverpool's midfielders are up and the fullbacks are up, that's where the gaps are going to come in. I think it's going to see a really, really open end-to-end game with goals.